What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and in this video I will be taking a look at the Spyker C8 LaViolette GT2R. I honestly butchered that name, so I'm waiting for the grammar police to come after me, but some of these words are honestly pretty weird. But overall, guys, this is going to be a new car added into the Crew 2, part of the Season 8 Episode 1 update, so I would say a lot of people are probably going to be a bit mixed on how this car is going to look. Me being one of them, because the front of this vehicle kind of reminds me of a fish. I feel like Disney missed this one when they could have used this as one of the characters, but overall I would say the rest of the car's body kit actually looks pretty cool. You're also going to see those rims on a lot of the touring vehicles as well, but I really do like the look of the body kit for the most part. I mean, the spoiler looks pretty nice, and I feel like the overall design of this car is actually pretty cool, but for the most part, I feel like a lot of people don't actually use the C8 in the street class either, so I'm sure a lot of players most likely are going to be wondering how this car is actually going to compare to the regular C8 in the street class, and or how this car is actually going to fit in being a touring car now. But one thing I also did want to show, when it comes to the customization, guys, there's really not going to be a ton besides the rims on the Crew 2, and or the caliper colors you can also change on here. But besides that though, there really isn't going to be much you can do to the C8 Spyker. But besides that though, let's go do an outside look of this vehicle right now and take this thing on a quick top speed test. So now spawning outside here by the highway near Miami, I figured this would be a good place to do a top speed test as well. But seeing the sun hit this car, you guys can definitely see the detail of it. Now I do have to admit, I do think this car does look kind of odd, but I also have to admit in another way, this thing honestly does look pretty sweet as well, plus it also sounds pretty dang good. And now moving over to the cockpit view of this Spyker here, you guys will notice there's going to be some detail. Basically every single button on the car is obviously visible. One thing I did notice though about the dash is unfortunately it doesn't show the gear that you're in, just the speed you guys are going, so do keep that in mind. One thing I also did notice about this vehicle is the overall visibility is not going to be the greatest. But besides all that, let's go see what the top speed of this Spyker is actually going to be. So one thing I have been noticing about the touring cars is they are actually going to be very similar when it comes to their top speed. So a lot of them do like 250 to like 255 and or like 260, compared to something like the street category where some of the cars are like 15 miles an hour slower than the others. I do find this pretty interesting because it's really going to come down to like the car's handling and or like the overall speed on it as well. So right now, guys, you will see 265 miles per hour on the Spyker here. So this thing's definitely going to be insanely fast. Basically the exact same top speed as the S1 as well. So a lot of these touring cars are definitely going to be insanely quick. But the biggest question is that going to be enough to make these cars insanely good on the track? So despite the looks on the C8 being kind of interesting, I do think this car is actually going to be pretty dang good overall. And one of the best things about this is the fact that many of the touring cars now are going to be insanely usable. So I really do feel like you're going to be seeing a lot of different cars being used on many of these events. The Spyker is also probably going to be showing up here and there, but I do think a lot of people are probably going to be choosing other cars over this one. I'm actually going to do some testing with the Saleen as well to see how it actually compares to the GT2. I did notice when racing this thing on a track though that it does have really nice handling, but then again, guys, as I did mention before, most of the touring cars feel a lot better. I would honestly love to see this added to all the hypercars and like every car in the game for that matter. I really do think it would make basically every car so much better, but for the most part I would say the overall speed on the GT2 is also pretty dang good. I would have to use it more often to really see how it might compare to something like the Renault and or like something like the CCGT in some areas, but then again I feel like it's going to have its positives. It will also have some negatives as well when it comes to how it does accelerate, but being able to find the right gear in this car definitely seems to be very simple. It is indeed going to be a 6-speed, which many of the cars in this class normally are, and or like a 7-speed as well, so at least it's going to be very balanced in that aspect of how it's going to shift. And I feel like the way this thing does drive on the track, I feel like it's going to be a great car overall. but I really do feel like a lot of people are most likely not going to pick the GT2 with how many touring cars are going to be good now. Even though some of these cars like the GT2R might end up falling into one of those pits where you just do not see the car show up that often, I feel like that's probably going to happen pretty often with this game. But at the same time though, with all these cars being really balanced now, I feel like a lot of players are going to be experimenting with them. I'm definitely planning on trying out some of these oddball vehicles like the C8 here to really see how it might compare to something like the Renault and or the Gallardo as well, because those cars were basically the kings for a while. But I really do feel like the overall meta in this game is going to change with some of these classes. This handling update was honestly needed, and I really would love to see it with the other classes as well. But I do want to know what you guys think about the C8 GT2R in the comments below. Do you guys plan on using this vehicle, or are you going to scrap this thing? And here are the settings I'm currently running on this vehicle.